You guys have been saying for years that we make quality content, but YouTube doesn't like quality content. It likes frequent content. And you know what that means? That's right, we're just gonna cheat! We've recorded DVD commentary of our old videos to provide context to those moments in history. Some of these jokes are funny, most of them are stupid, and absolutely none of them have ever offended anyone.
Welcome back, everybody. It's the first time we've done a co-op commentary in a fucking long time. Jesus Christ. The whole damn world has been very difficult, at least for me anyway. So, imagine my fucking surprise whenever Shakura Sender made a whole goddamn Starbound video for me. We're joined today by Shakura Sender, who just simply out of appreciation for the game Starbound and for our bro-op videos, made a little fan fiction video in the universe of our Starbound series, and it's fucking canon. It's so good. I really enjoyed it, and so he's here today to provide some commentary as we go over it and take a look at it. Thanks so much.
You're welcome. I guess before we really get into it, I guess I want to say a little bit about maybe why I was like inspired, like what kind of gave me the kick in the pants to start making this.
Yeah,
and it started about early September, maybe late. What's the month for September? It's not important. I saw that a bunch of people in the Grow Up Discord server were talking about Starbound, playing Starbound, and that kind of really got me thinking about again. Mainly a lot of like, man, I miss when the game was sort of, I guess, culturally relevant. So yeah, is a good way to say it. I miss kind of that point in my life. That was it was a pretty good time in my life, I think. I like to think. So when I saw, I think it was Julius, Poppy, and Rage I think they had a server going on. That kind of made me think, you know, I should make something that show my appreciation for the game and Starbound at kind of that point in my life. And that's kind of why that's kind of where the idea started. And with that, I think let's start with the first scene. Let's get this show.
Yeah, let's jump into it.
So I don't know if you still have that Google Drive I sent you with a bunch of like behind the scenes pictures. Yeah. But I think there's somewhere it's fully zoomed out, and you can see that both this set and the bar scene are both built on the ship, and that was they were built entirely on the ship, and that was I don't think I ever mentioned it, but there was a lot of time spent just getting everything ready and built, because I think the bar scene and this like controller scene were the first ones that I ever created, and because they were on the ship, there were some unique challenges. First of all, I had to do some command shenanigans and stuff to, you know, get myself the ship and not have to do any of the tutorial stuff. And then there was also, if you look at the image titled "Gay Baby Jail" in the in the Google Drive folder, there's an image. Because obviously the Starbound are the worst part of the game and like to get in your way. So I had to contain the ship pet so it wouldn't follow me onto the set as I was filming. So that was its own thing. Yeah. So there's some work done there. And all the sets are built, but especially true for this one, all the sets are built to be just enough to build screen, and then like everything beyond that, it was just normal stuff. Like every there's a lot of stuff that's just barely out of shot, particularly so on the ship. And I guess as a fun behind the scenes production fact, I never actually gave the Nova Kid a name in any of the dialogue, but never referred to by name in the script. They're always just called the Nova Kid. But the actual name on the save file is Toluene, which is short for Trinitro-toluene, which is the proper name for TNT, dynamite, etc.
Oh, neat.
Yeah, so that's I want to mention that because it's never brought up anywhere else in the script, but that was neat.
I do have a question. Is there any reason in particular you chose to play as a Nova Kid for this little story?
I think so. The idea to play as a Nova Kid was kind of because I think across the entire Starbound Burl-Op series, Nova Kids are rather infamously, I guess I could say, the actually rarest race. Like I think the only Nova Kid that's ever at least featured prominently in the videos is Nitrous Dead Star, I believe. Yep. So that's kind of why I chose Nova Kid. I think it would be very different from any of the other established characters, or mostly established characters, and was also, I guess it's a slight callback to the the rarity of Nova Kids.
Yeah, I actually kind of figured that's what it was, because it had pissed Chase off so bad that we never ran into Nova Kids in that playthrough. And like right after that, somebody in the Discord server ran into Nova Kids, and I was like, can I jump into your server for some footage real quick? Because this is so annoying.
Yeah, I guess there's some irony there that like Chase kind of and the whole Grow Up crew kind of spent all this time looking for Nova Kids, never found any. Now here in this video, it's a Nova Kid looking for the Bro Operatives.
Yeah, exactly. I really appreciated that.
I guess if you, as you, the viewer, the audience, didn't watch the original version, there's like some slight differences, because obviously I'm not exactly the most proficient audio guy and video maker, so there's like some so I know the music is generally something Jesse added in. I use basically entirely diegetic stuff, and like, I think the music was actually entirely muted, and like most of the sounds were like very, very low, because recording audio was kind of a nightmare. If you actually listen to the original video, it's very crusty and rough around the edges. That's because I spent like an hour trying to get OBS to get the noise filters correctly, and I could only get it so good, even if I turned all the fans off in my room and I closed the window. I did everything to reduce it. There was still background noise. I could not figure it out, so I just left it, because I figured I was like, oh, if I get to a certain point, it'll just be like, oh, it's a recording, so of course it's fuzzy, et cetera, et cetera. That was its own thing. That was a pain in the ass. But obviously Jesse put some filters over it, so I think that was a big...
Yeah, like that was the thing, is that like whenever you put out your version, which in case anybody watching this hasn't seen us talk about it in the Discord and the announcement, the original iteration of this was the fan film that he put out on the Discord, and I was like, I want this to be canon. Can I re-upload this to the playlist so that it's one of the steps in watching through this story? And so I wanted to make a couple of just production changes. I only really added music because I am sort of notorious for forgetting. Like, I think in one of the most recent D&D videos, I just fucking forgot. And so when I do that, I often feel like I've dropped the ball, and that providing at least a little bit of ambient music in the background adds a little bit more of a professional tone to it. But at the same time, I do respect that there are some reasons to not have music for things like that. But as for the voice, yeah, he hadn't even talked to me about all the trouble he had. I just could tell he had trouble because, like you can hear, it is a little bit of crusty audio. And I was just sitting here going, well, it's so perfect that he played a Nova Kid, because now I can just use in-universe, like, environmental storytelling to just be like, yeah, he sounds weird because he's made out of fucking space gas. Like, why the hell not? Like, yeah. So it was easy around that. And then also the decision to put subtitles in, because he had provided the entire script, and our videos always perform better whenever there's clear, visible subtitles baked into the video. They just 100% do. So I was like, okay, well, there's zero chance anybody's not going to understand what he's saying, because I'll have subtitles, and I cleaned up the audio a little bit. So, there we go.
Recording dialogue overall was kind of I think it was the most difficult part of the whole thing, because not only because of the way my audio was set up, I actually had to change the way I normally speak to give more enunciation to the dialogue, so it actually would be audible. So like if you hear in the bar scene where he says the final explosion of the room, sounds kind of like, there's a lot of stuff that sounds weird. Like a normal person wouldn't say that, and that's because I had to speak louder. I had to be a lot more deliberate in my enunciation, actually get the words to even show up on recording at all. Like there'd be some takes where it'd say the final explosion of and then it would cut off room, because it would fall below whatever threshold.
Right. I don't know if you know this, but that's why like old-timey radio announcer voice is such an iconic thing, because it was actually a learned tone of voice that was the only way they could guarantee the words would be picked up. Like the he's coming around the corner, like all of that was actually a consequence of the limitations of the technology at the time.
So the control room scene, as I said earlier, it's another scene on the ship, and all the like the screen turning on effects, that was all done with like just the delay switches that's already in Starbound. One of the behind the scenes photos that I'm sure Jesse will put up, and if I mention it, I'm sure Jesse will put it up on screen. You can see the tangle of wires where like it's each screen turning on had to be timed, because obviously if they're all just connected to a single switch, they'd all turn on at once, and there wouldn't be a sort of like visual tension of everything kind of booting up and trying to trace the signal. That's why that's some fun. Those are all just out of shot, just past the vault on the very left edge of screen. And then of course Oh yeah, go on.
I am fascinated by the parallels between filmmaking tricks like that and the way that translates to machinima, because I remember listening to commentary of like Red versus Blue and a lot of the stuff that they did that like it's so silly that they had to resort to the same shit that like early filmmakers did. Like in I think it's season 4 or 5, whenever they introduced like the baby alien character, I had thought the entire time that they'd done like video editing to make him small. No, every shot with him in it is forced perspective. He's just really far away.
In my head, I was kind of thinking like, man, this is basically just machinima, even though I don't think anyone actually calls their stuff machinima these days.
Well, you know what ruined it is that multi-channel network on YouTube. Like
machinima as a whole, just
because they didn't do exclusively machinima, but I guess that's how they started. And now the word machinima is just synonymous with cringe. So like it's kind of hard to market a video like this. It doesn't mean there aren't people who do it. There are RP YouTubers that have successfully marketed their stuff like that. But I think we were well past the point of even thinking about. But yeah, what you've done is made a machinima. You really have, regardless of the fact that the word no longer really works.
Yeah.
And I interrupted you a moment ago. You were talking about all the different things that you did to get the screen to turn on.
Yes. So there was a lot of time spent just like going through I used a lot of mods to help me with this, with the making of this. And the two most useful for the set building were just the thing that lets you spawn in items. There's a lot of me just, as I was building sets, me just going through the whole list of switches or screens or interactables, trying to find the right type of prop basically to give this feel. So and as I was making this, I was like, okay, I want to make a control room and I want to have it be a signal picked up, but I don't want it to be a video. So that's why I use this static screen to basically make it look like the audio from the No Man's Sky series is being picked up diegetically, so to speak. Diegetically, for those unaware, I guess, just means coming, like the sound is coming from in universe, like it's coming from a source that's like in the set, in the world of the show. And one last thing before we move on from the scene, there's a lot of I tried to time. So I filmed the audio and I filmed like the lines and the video were filmed separately. So I actually had to retime a lot of footage, and you can see it in any screen, in any set where there's like a blinking light, you can really see it. So if you watch that little console by the keyboard on the left, you can watch the blinks and tell where I've looped a certain segment of footage to extend that little bit long enough for me to finish delivering the line and then move on. So there's a lot of that going on, just because I didn't time the actions quite right.
I had considered splicing in the footage from those episodes into the screen in those moments, and especially in the white flash, but a couple of things stopped me, and this is what I was about to talk about when you talked about looping the footage, is that as the years have gone by, I've come to realize that while we get praised a lot on our production quality, the amount of effort I put into production quality doesn't translate to how many views it gets at all, and I stay kind of overwhelmed with other things that I should be doing. So when I was remastering what was essentially already a finished product, I was like, it didn't need the video in it in the first place. Like, it was just fine with the audio in it. And so I decided not to splice that in. But also, by not splicing it in, I had kind of hoped to pique the interest of anybody who didn't watch the No Man's Sky episode, because in spite of really trying to make sure people understood that that was a continuation of the Starbound series, I still got comments down the road from people who didn't realize it was the same continuity. So I was like, well, maybe they'll hear this audio and be like, what the fuck episodes were these?
Yeah. There was actually the audio from the No Man's Sky series. I did very minimal work to it to make it seem like it was a rogue signal being picked up from beyond the universe, because like you already had effects on it from the video. So all I did was add some I think I literally looked up how to add like radio chatter fuzz.
Yeah.
Adobe Premiere Pro 2022. That's how I did that. That's where I
have a catch-all extension called Crush that's really good for stuff like that. Unfortunately, it also often crashes my computer. So
it's one letter difference between the two, Crush and Crash.
Yep.
And then I guess this would be the actual last thing before we move on. The character of V, which I'll get to later on. So V is the is what's basically standing in for the ship's sail AI. And his sole purpose in the narrative started out as basically just being, I need something for the character to bounce lines off of, or just going to be, it's not going to sound good. It's not going to, the story's not going to progress in a way that feels very natural, or I guess something like that. And the thing about V, he's actually named V because of text-to-speech software I used to create his lines. So it's a modified version of Microsoft Sam, where where you can adjust the effects, and it's online. And I just would screen record, tab, and then just extract the audio out in Premiere Pro. And then, so if you don't know, that's the same voice to text that's used in the Ultra Kill fan community as the voice for the main character there, who's called V1. So this AI is called V because because V1 said you get it.
And something else about the AI is we'll talk about it more as it goes along, about how the nature of that character progressed to be something far more important to the overall narrative. But I try to make sure that the subtitles are color coded in a way that you can easily track who's talking. And so I literally keyed out the colors for each speaker's dialogue from their sprites, which is why the Nova Kid is sort of a lavender color, whereas V, I pulled that magenta straight from the interface that's over there on the wall.
I picked that up. That's part of the reason why this scene is actually built in this room specifically, because it has the sail, and I didn't do subtitles, so I wanted to kind of communicate the fact he's talking to the AI that you can see the interface on the wall. So I think that only became more clear as you added to it as well. I'm glad that came across.
Yeah, that worked out.
Wait. Was that fucking person who is now playing a game that show up in the? God damn it! Was that in the original video? Did I forget to have that?
Hold on.
There's a little bit that comes over. You can see him playing on Steam, and some of my friends on Steam shows up in the.
Oh, I've got it. Well, I don't know. Let's find out.
God damn it! I'm gonna shit my fucking pants. God, motherfucking!
I didn't see that either, or I would have gotten rid of it for you.
I wonder if that's there from all right, wait. I wonder if that's there. I feel like it's wait. So go back to the very start of the shot.
All right, I'm sure there's a button for going frame by frame, but I don't know what it is in this media player.
God damn. All right, yeah. So it looks like I must have forgot to cut that out. So yeah. So this scene was responsible for the largest number of reshoots, and clearly should have had a number of more reshoots. God damn it. And it's purely because of this scene here with the mech dropping into the asteroid. Because you don't know this, so if you go up high enough, there are asteroids in the game, and there are also asteroid belts you can fly to just from the space ship. And so this scene is built in one of those asteroid belts. But the thing with that is that there's actually no gravity in those asteroid belts, so you won't stand on the ground because your mech is just flying about. And if you build something, you can't then add gravity to it like you can with the pre-generated space stations or other stuff like that.
Right.
So what I had to do is I had to use commands to set the gravity to a specific amount to make it basically normal. It's like you're on a planet, like you're on a space station or whatever. But then your mech can't float about. So I had to basically put the mech on top of that little pillar there, by where the green little wave is, and then drop down into the asteroid. And then I would cut it so that way it would look like it's falling down, and I didn't just drop off in gravity. And then I would get out in the suit. So that was its own. That's why there was a lot of reshoots here in this specific part. There's a lot of I'd drop down and I'd get out and I'd be facing the wrong way, or be looking at the wrong thing, or it fucked up so I had to get back in, go back up. So many times I had to actually back to the spaceship and then beam back down because the mech actually ran out of battery. Yeah, there's a lot of that.
And speaking of the Steam interface thing that was caught in there, this goes back to what I was talking about before, is that these used to be the kind of things that I would obsess about a lot. But the thing is that sometimes they take more out of me to try to fix than it's really worth whenever typically nobody notices. This is the first anybody's noticing it, and this has basically been released twice. We're only just now noticing it now that we're doing commentary on it. But there's still story mode videos of mine that have FPS counters in them, and like Steam overlay shit.
It is what it is. I'm gonna go to the comments, see if anybody's pointed that out. 11 comment. Nope. All right, no one noticed it. So didn't count. So it doesn't count. We can. All right, now we can press play. Pause here.
Okay.
Go back a little bit to be in the asteroid city, just like right at the very where you're standing there. So, yeah. So this is another spot that caused a lot of reshoots because just off screen, past the bed, there's a flag that I used to basically teleport down directly to the asteroid, and there'd be shots where I would walk too far. And then
it would be visible.
You could see like a pixel of the flag kind of waving, and it was distracting, so I didn't want to have it in. And then at the very end, if there was one thing, if I could go back and remove one thing from the entire thing, it'd be all the times I say end log. Because after I finished it and I listened to it, I was like, man, the delivery felt really awkward and stilted. And I think it would be better if I just like didn't say end log at all. So that's like the one thing I would change most of all, above all.
Well, meanwhile, that's also an instance of like whenever you're doing like literary criticism, you never know what things were intentional and what things are things that the speaker or the writer regrets. Because I made it a point to have all those end log statements in like all caps because you seemed to be saying them with such intent. Like, so like every time you say end log, I remember thinking to myself, I wonder if there's meant to be like a parallel here between like himself and the AI, but that's obviously something I just completely extrapolated out of bullshit.
Yeah, it was basically, I was basically going to put a divide between what's technically like normal dialogue, what was like a almost like interaction recording. I kind of blurred the line. I didn't keep it super clear, like when he was speaking it, when he was doing, like if he was doing an after like a post mission report, or if he was delivering this as he was going through the thing. So that's kind of why I put end log there in the script initially. But I think for a lot of the scenes, it doesn't really add enough. And this goes back to the audio issues where I had to deliver it in kind of stilted way, so it would show up on the capture.
Well, this is part of why, to me, Bro Op is about emergent storytelling, even in the videos where we're not trying to tell a narrative, because so much of the jokes that we lean on are the result of unintended things. And so this is just another one of them that like kind of tied into the story in an interesting way. And there's more of that to comment on as we move forward.
Yeah. All right, pause it.
Okey-doke.
So obviously, like a few seconds ago, I said Fukyu Biotech, and I deliberately connected that to Fukyu Medical, and that was a deliberate nod, of course, to the hospital from the Starbound series. But something I never mentioned here, that's kind of, I guess, my headcanon within a headcanon, is that the ape there in that tube with all the tech next to him, I never bring it up, but I imagine that to be the Doc Suicide from the.
I love that.
And that's why there's this one random tube that actually has a person in it.
Interesting. Okay, I like that. I like little callbacks like that.
Yeah, and actually in the comments, some people actually did pick up the Fukyu reference.
Yeah, and I appreciated that too. And to me, it had like greater lore implications of like, okay, so something happened to Fukyu after they founded it and disappeared. Like it expanded in some way into biotech under new like ownership or something. I don't know. Yeah,
but I kind of left it unclear because it was effectively. It was the serious equivalent of a throwaway joke. It was a line kind of show, oh yeah, it has been 20 years, things have changed, etc.
Yeah.
Pause it there. That line there with analyzing prediction, that's kind of where V as a character kind of started to come out and like actually become sort of a almost become more than an A, like kind of to imply that he's more than AI and more like a traveling companion, sort of like the snarky AI buddy trope, etc.
It's absolutely the first time that we see that they have a rapport, because while V's response is very objective, it's kind of like, who asked? Like it's kind of like V is intentionally trying to be a smartass, and you respond in a sarcastic way, but your sarcasm is that more clear human sarcasm, whereas V's, if you're not paying real fucking close attention, you might miss it because it's such an emotionless objective delivery.
Yeah, and this is also where we get into the red versus blue connections again, where like V kind of like, I was very much inspired by seasons of Red versus Blue, where Church is an AI, and like he's still like almost a human on some level, but like there's also elements where he has those parts of like he's still an AI. He can still do all these advanced like inhumanly fast calculations. Right. But he delivers it with like almost a sarcastic sort of wit or dry humor, whatever you want to call it. That's part of where that's where this starts to take on. And
that's good.
And I want to take a slight detour before we continue here, where V's dialogue is if I don't know if you can take screenshots, put up on screen. It had to be written in a very deliberate way to get the AI to actually say it I was basically directing the AI on its line to speak in a intelligible kind of not necessarily natural cadence, but something like sounds like it's a person saying it, so to speak, where like they'll like otherwise it'll just like it'll say it in weird ways or it'll like deliver too fast. So I had to do a lot of spacing, a lot of like phonetic spelling or phonetic breakdowns of words to get like tracing signal is written in the script as Trey Sing Sig Nell within 2 periods at the end of Nell, because the program treats periods as basically like extending a syllable. So there's a lot of that. If you look in the script, there's a lot of stuff like that.
Yeah, I found that very interesting. It was very reminiscent of those videos of Moonbase Alpha, where you're watching people like really intentionally play the AI text-to-speech as sort of an instrument in a way, and that's what it reminded me of.
This pause there, that line specifically where like it cuts off weirdly, that's not like an editing mistake. That's just how it is in the original No Man's Sky episode, because right after that they get like attacked by a creature or whatever, so I had to cut it before they start screaming.
And you get away with it because it looks like it's some sort of like cutout from the transmission. So something I didn't mention earlier that I'd like to mention now is that in my original drafts of remastering this, I did a lot of zoom shots, and Shaq was like, just letting you know, they're wide shots on purpose so that there can be elements of the shot in the scene for like environmental storytelling, so don't do that too much. And I was like, oh shit, no, now that I know, I won't do it at all. But I had thought about doing some kind of slow zoom either in or out here, because I almost wanted to emphasize how much I like this especially zoomed out shot. And didn't you say you like modded it so that you could get it this far zoomed out?
Yes, all the zoom levels are this is kind of so in the original STARBOUND series, all the zoom is basically done in editing. But with this, like when they close in on a shot in the original series, you obviously get it in thing where you just like clipped the clip and then you kind of stretched out to fill whatever you needed. But with this, because that was an advantage of this being obviously entirely scripted, is I could do specific camera shots where like I used a mod to basically extend the zoom the camera distance to I guess the field of view, whatever you want to call it, to be either extremely large or extremely small. And that's how I would couple that with like the control key to basically move the camera around with the mouse to frame these shots in the way I want.
That's nice. Cool. And if I could, this is going to sound really stupid, but that's just sort of a circumstance of being a fool, is that I still use Magix Vegas, formerly Sony Vegas, to edit all my videos, and it doesn't have a good nearest neighbor scaling option, which has been a problem for us for a long time because, the STARBOUND videos and some of our other videos are pixel art games, so zooming in on them creates a blur because it's trying to do some sort of smart scaling when in reality I don't want it to scale at all. I just want it to fucking give me those squares but bigger. And so if I knew I could reliably nearest neighbor scale in on any shot, I'd film the entire series zoomed out like this, because then you're gonna get everything you need.
Yeah, I don't know if it was in the versions you were filming in, like the mod or even that setting. But that's a vanilla setting. The mod just extended the distance to which you could do it. So I don't even know. I guess I have to look at earlier versions, but yeah. So that's that. But that's always stuck out to me as like an advantage, like the main difference between the series and this is that the scripting allowed a lot tighter control of obviously set and camera set and shot.
Right.
The line you said where like V thinks it's something special. That's another example of like V kind of coming into his own as a character, so to speak. Of like it kind of builds that like, oh, these two clearly have like he knows that V thinks that would ordinarily think this thing, but obviously this is causing him to change his opinion. So yeah, that's another example of like where I started to develop V as a character and to become less of a narrative device and more a actual person, so to speak.
And something, you know, if any of you watching don't know this about writing in general, whenever you're doing it well, you're not even really making a lot of decisions for the character. You're learning about the character as you go along. Because if you're just really just paying attention and almost like listening to yourself as you put them in these situations and just start to develop a relationship with this imaginary person in your mind, you find yourself going, well, they wouldn't do that. Or they would do this, even though you're in control of what they would fucking do. Yeah. But it's almost like you're not telling a story, you're finding out what the story is. And the first time I ever noticed that was in a documentary about Batman and Robin, actually. And it was about Jason Todd, and about the writer who introduced the Robin, Jason Todd, was like, listen, I didn't mean for him to be a little shithead. I just sort of found out that he was. And that's kind of what this reminds me of, is that, like, I think you realized about the same time I did, while you were recording or while you were writing, whatever it is you did, that that they had this subtle relationship where they could read each other, even though one of them theoretically should be unreadable. There shouldn't be anything there to read.
Yeah,
but
one's an AI and the one's an alien.
Yeah.
And also, I guess before we move on, the rain here, that was actually, I never wrote in the script, it's raining while I was doing it. It's like, that's just how, because like, Starbound doesn't, the commands in Starbound don't give you as tight a control as something like Minecraft does. So any like weather and timing, like I knew it was gonna be at night. Like any weather stuff, especially, it wasn't planned. It's kind of happy coincidence if it did. And I guess in this case, it doesn't make really sense. He's playing a guitar by a campfire in the rain, which is, but it's atmospheric. So like whatever.
And again, this is just a circumstance where I was just like, somewhere in the back of my mind, I was like, every bit of this scene is intentional. I was like, the fact that this Nova kid would be sitting in the rain playing a guitar with a lit campfire in spite of the rain, to me just speaks to the single-mindedness of your character. Like, to me, nothing exists for the character other than this hunt and this guitar. That's sort of the way I interpreted it.
Yeah, I think that's definitely a happy coincidence of the filmmaking. And just another thing, like as far as the set goes, that log he's in front of, like that's a thing you can sit on, but Starbound doesn't let you play instruments and sit on something at the same time. So he's basically just like crouching, like in, I guess if we want to look at this, I guess laconically or whatever, just crouching in front of a log. He's sitting on the sand, even though he has a very well, like he could very well be sitting on something. So yeah, it's kind of, there's a lot of I had to work around the engine, so to speak, to get things to work. This is the main thing that makes me wish I didn't say end log. So I wanted to have the music fade out with the black screen coming in, but because I said end log and the end log was so close to the end, it kind of wasn't really, it felt weird if the end log was so much quieter than the rest of the dialogue. That's kind of, so that's one thing that kind of, I kind of had to give up on that during the editing process. Like I was like, whatever.
That makes sense.
Pause it here. So obviously the music's something you added in. I actually didn't know you did this until you actually sent me the in progress. This is from the Sad Cat dance meme that was going around at the time.
That's correct.
And the holograms there, once again, those are from a mod. And I ordinarily I would have used the halal fashion holograms that are vanilla game, but I felt these felt better fitting in with like kind of Prince Wasabi as a character, which I guess feels weird to say because it's not actually my character; he's Chase's character, and Chase kind of obviously So that I didn't want to. I actually felt kind of bad. It's like, man, as I was writing, I was like, man, I hope Chase doesn't think I'm like misinterpreting his character as a weird womanizer because of this like stripper hologram.
I guarantee you, if he's seen this by now, the only reaction he had was, hell yeah. Because speaking of talking about it being his character, like this has been a recurring argument within production of like Chase and several other people don't always enjoy the like narrative role play elements of these stories, even though they don't realize that they invented it, because like when we were playing the beta of Starbound, it didn't have much of a story, and you can tell in the very first episode, Chase is the one that says, so what's the story here? And we had started like headcanoning out a story, but in spite of all of that, any character Chase plays in any Bro Op series is just Chase. so I can completely vouch that he would be like, hell yeah.
Nice. Some other stuff as far as set design goes. I was originally going to use there's actually a prop in the game that is like called like a rave light or whatever, disco lights, and they come in like however many colors. But you can't like, and they'll put a beam on the ground, but only in one direction. You can't turn it left or right. So that's why I had to switch using these gold lights to basically light the scene, because so that's when originally I would have used this other prop if it worked like you would think it would logically. And as far as like wiring and setting up the lights goes, originally I was going to use the wiring timers to basically have it do motion detecting, or to have it line up, and like as you showed up to thing, it would light up, and then the line would progress or whatever, etc. But I actually discarded that. And instead, what I've done, you actually see it. I actually mistimed my movements and had to compensate with a little extra one. There's a pressure plate on the ground that turns on all the lights and the holograms. And you can look close. If you look closely, you can see me step onto it after stopping. And you actually, I think, you can see it on the ground as well. If you pay close attention, I think it's right there, kind of in the center beneath the painting.
Yeah.
And I think you can hear it more in the original because I didn't have any music. But you can actually hear. You actually hear me step on the pressure plate because they always make a sound when you step on.
Right, and I heard it there because I was listening for it. But yeah. Okay.
Pause it here.
Okay.
So that transmission that he gets from that he picks up about like Prince Wasabi in my book, et cetera, was actually, I think that wasn't in the original script. I think I added that at almost the last minute because like, oh crap, I need to make it clear that he gets something here that gives him the clue to go to the next spot, because otherwise it wouldn't make sense. Like, well, how did he get from Prince Wasabi to this next place? And actually, that scene as a whole is actually the original outline I have in the document when I was first planning. Is that scene basically never existed in my original conception of this episode, because originally the outline says he goes to a Hylatl city where he meets some guy for to find something, but it turns out to be a trap, and he falls into an abandoned section of a city to then find the next clue. But that changed for a couple reasons. One, it would have been a pain in the ass to build all that set.
Yeah.
Two, because Starbound is a 2D game, it's kind of hard to give the perception of a city unless I do a bunch of work that is difficult to, and then even then
you have to do a lot of establishing shots. You can't just start there.
Yeah. And then obviously, because there was a very brief moment where, because I had originally gotten the idea from seeing Rage and Poppy and Julius, like I thought about asking them to basically be extras in some of the shots. Basically, there was a point at which I was not going to be the only like actual player character doing acting. That was going to at one point not be the case. But because of a couple reasons, first of all, scheduling would have been a pain. I feel kind of awkward doing directing and stuff. I kind of
plus a fraction of the pain I feel every time we try to do something.
Yeah, but plus rather selfishly, like just me as a person, like I like to have a lot of directorial control, which I didn't want to subject them to that. And then of course there was if I had tried to get other people in, I wouldn't be able to work on my own time frame. Yeah. This whole thing, if I counted the hours, it basically went from first starting script writing and outlining to finishing editing in under 24 hours. It was spread across 2 days, but like I think if you count the individual, the sessions I spent working on, it was under 24 hours.
Yeah,
if I had to work with other people.
Yeah, far more. What's the word I'm looking for? Far more efficient than anything I would do. Yeah.
Yeah. So, and if I on some level, I kind of regret not having other community members playing would have been neat, but I think at the end of the day, I think it worked out well that I did.
Yeah, I agree. It winds up being a story almost about like, loneliness and the nature of friendship and stuff like that, because as we'll dig into further, it winds up being much more focused on these two characters.
Yeah, and I think the idea of like the single-minded pursuit works better if he's the only actual person who's ever like basically in the shot.
Yeah.
This is me trying to imply that I triangulated the location.
Yeah,
that's why. Yeah.
I didn't worry too much about it the first time I watched it. I was just like, oh, he figured something out, whatever. But as I was editing it, I was like, oh, the implication is that seeing fucking Wasabi's 3 eyes like gave him a little brain blast, and he's like, oh, I can triangulate the location.
Yeah, like I didn't even realize that. Yeah, I didn't even realize that he had 3 eyes. But yeah, it was basically just
because you say of all the 3-eyed fishy, I just had an idea, and then you start talking about triangulating the location. So I thought that was intentional.
No, that was just me realizing, okay, at this point, he's on 3 signals. He can triangulate.
Yeah,
But yeah, I guess that worked out. Yeah. Yep. This is my favorite callback in the video.
And I appreciate it too, because I think that let's not make up words today. I was gonna say intersplicing. Interspersing is the word I'm using, though. I'm trying to use. I think interspersing tonally contrasting moments is pretty vital to what we do, because many of the creative arguments we've had about the videos is whether or not the parts that I insert are too serious, and every single thing that we try to make is meant to be a comedy first and foremost. I think that intersplicing like the serious parts kind of strengthen the comedy bits that come later. And in your instance, it's like you occasionally remind us this is still a fan video for like a fucking dick and ball humor channel. So
yeah. All right, pause here. Technically, this could be considered like a continuity error, because I realized, because I kind of only remembered the Trump's America line. I didn't remember where it was or what the context or what the planet they were on was. I just kind of assumed it was one of these scorched planets. I remember that being mentioned in one of the later episodes, but it turns out it's not like the thing you were in wasn't even an entire planet. It was a microbiome on a otherwise normal planet.
Right.
So
it doesn't matter though. I feel like this to me just indicates the passage of time from like then to now. And also you've got to take into consideration the fact that these stories, while we are occasionally breaking character, a part of you as an audience member has to justify those character breaks as a part of the canon. So why are we making Trump jokes? Why are we making election riot jokes? Is there a reason for that to be relevant to the timeline now? Or is there a reason for us to be reflecting back to it from a future perspective? I don't know, but I feel like this continuity error that you made implies that was the beginning of some sort of alternate universe Trump presidency that went even worse.
Yeah. Because I think I had known that I wanted the final spot to be on one of the ruined planets, but I didn't. But the Trump America was basically just a mechanic of the narrative to basically get it to there to make that. And also, this crane shot is actually it's not. I didn't build a full crane. I just built like the top half and then did the camera tricks to make it look like the right place. You can see some of there's some behind the scenes photos in the Google Drive you could put up to show how it is. And this scene's kind of culmination, because this is the final shot I built and the final shot I recorded, and you can kind of tell it's the culmination of me getting better at reading and delivering lines while also playing the game. I'm effectively doing parkour while I'm trying to deliver dialogue. There's a lot of trying to not fuck up the jumps, still deliver the dialogue smoothly. I don't know why I said thing. I should have just said frame. You can tell I did a frame stall here because the cloud stopped moving, and I kind of fucked up because I forgot to smoothly transition into the rest of the actual moving shot.
But thankfully, my decision's probably distracted from that. You had done this thing with V's dialogue here, where V's dialogue is becoming more erratic, presumably because he's getting emotional.
Yeah, it's kind of a combination. He's getting more emotional. Also, the readings are spiking, and they're causing that interference. Like that's kind of the two combining.
And I didn't know how I wanted to represent that glitchy dialogue in the subtitle, because I wanted to make sure that came across, even if you were watching it muted. I didn't want to just have the subtitles just be normal. So what I tried to do at multiple points following this is have glitches reminiscent of trying to operate a device that the GPU is failing, because I've seen a lot of on BSODs and stuff like that where text will be like chopped in half, or it will be flipped, like it's and different things like that, and you'll see that throughout V's remaining dialogue.
I was so weird. I realized after the fact, you walk 15 feet and suddenly now it's more dominant. That's kind of a weird thing to think about, but whatever.
It's fine. I don't think it bothered me at all.
That dialogue's actually that I had to hand space that dialogue from the No Man's Sky thing to make it to make the delivery kind of make it feel more, I guess, deliberately paced than it did in the original video. And also you can hear, because in that same video, the country roads or whatever started to play in the background, so you can kind of hear a little bit of that in the audio there, with behind the whatever filters I put on top of it to try and make it so the dialogue goes prominent.
Something I've started doing, there are free utilities online where you can use AI-based tools to remove music from recordings, and that has been a game changer for me, because that means I no longer have to keep holding onto my raw footage if I even suspect I want to reuse something later without the music. I've already done that a couple of times for like the D&D stuff. I'll just be like, okay, so I like that the music is here, but I don't like that like friends are talking over it and shit, so I'll just render that out and run it through to have the music removed, and then I'll put the music back in where I want it. So but you did a good job spacing that out, and I actually really appreciate you putting that line in specifically, because the No Man's Sky episodes are like simultaneously some of my proudest work and my like biggest shame, because I went in so heavy-handed with the narrative, but I had to, because we were barely playing and I couldn't really get like reaction out of anybody whenever I would try to do like prompting dialogue, so it wound up being mostly scripted, kind of like your video. It wound up mostly just being me, myself, and I, and so it's almost like a thematic statement about like not even the people he's looking for, but the people playing the characters. And about myself, because I was learning a lot about myself at the time, and that line means a lot to me, so I just really appreciate you tying it together there.
It's actually when I first started writing the script, I basically had zero idea what like specific lines I was going to be putting into the video, with the exception of Trump's America, but like that was a kind of throwaway gag. But like when I first started, I didn't know I was going to put this dialogue line into I didn't know it was going to be the penultimate thing, and so that it really worked out. Like I just had to go searching through to find dialogue that is like Xeno 6 proper, not the Xeno 6 that's kind of still partially in the like the Xeno 6 that's being played by Jesse, not the Xeno 6 that's the distorted AI version in his own head. The Xeno 6 that is Xeno 6. That's the original.
For clarity's sake, that character has a name, and he has two names, in fact. It's just I didn't ever do a third episode where I would have more concretely established that. His name's Brain Damage, because he always refers to him as Brain Damage. But the end of that episode reveals that he's just fucking what's his name? Tedbot. It's just Tedbot. The revelation is that Xeno 6's AI is based on Tedbot, in the sense that they just took Tedbot's AI and wrote more on top of it. So like everything that happened just sort of shook that loose, and that's why there's a later part in there in the real episode. I'll talk about this again if we ever do a co-op commentary of the actual episode, but a lot of the end of that episode was not streamed. We just got together and recorded some role play that went really fucking well. So it still pisses me off to this day that they don't enjoy doing it. It's because they did excellent improv and it was hilarious. Ian is the one who delivered all of the lines from Brain Damage while we were aboard Wasabi's ship. And I went back and re-recorded them imitating his cadence of speech, because I wanted that to have gotten across.
And then I guess one more thing before we resume. This whole scene where it fades to white and there's dialogue being delivered by whatever guy. It's actually based, again, Red versus Blue, Church, AI, sort of the final... I guess it's no longer the final, but like what's basically the final lines of Church as the AI at the end of season 13 or whatever, at the end of the Chorus trilogy, where it's kind of he's delivering almost a eulogy to himself and to and basically on a more meta level, the idea of Red versus Blue. Very good ending dialogue. If you haven't seen that, I recommend you go watch it. But it's kind of paying homage to that in a way where it's sort of like time's almost stopped, frozen, and then after he's dead or after it's concluded, then it resumes. So it's sort of paying homage to that. Nice. I really like Red versus Blue, in case you can't tell. It's good.
I mean, I think you and I both pull a lot of inspiration from it, because I haven't watched as far into Red versus Blue as you, but what it reminded me of was the I forget you line where he allows himself to let go of the memory of Tex.
That too. That was another one that like all the churches in AI. It had kind of those things played a very big role in the way I kind of thought about this as I developed more of an idea of what it was going to be. That kind of came to the fore. So this final bit, that pause before he actually teleports out was entirely deliberate. I actually got the idea for it from the first time he teleports in the lab or whatever, because I didn't actually in the recording. I didn't actually like open the dialogue and then hit and then click, teleport to wherever. That actually had to add the teleporting sound in post, which is why it just cuts to black every time he teleports to place the sound. Yeah. Another happy coincidence. I actually didn't plan on having the sun be rising in the background as this was going on. That was just a coincidence of I had to redo the parkour segment enough time that by the time I got to this final shot, it had gone from day to night. Now the sun was right. I thought it worked out really well.
Something else that was just a happy coincidence is that the last time me and Ian streamed No Man's Sky, the one that I have the footage for, but the footage got corrupted, so I only have the streamed footage that's like a lower resolution, and like my fucking big doofy ass head's in the way because it's the streamed recording. He did excellent fucking roleplay as we went through, but it ended with us finding one of those gates and me not knowing how to turn it on. And he and Chase had both joked, what if you go through this gate and you're just back in Starbound? And I was like, that would be funny. Maybe we'll do that one day. And I had already pretty much decided if I ever managed to repurpose that footage and finish the No Man's Sky story arc with a third episode, it would be him going through that door and going somewhere else entirely, like completely leaving No Man's Sky. And then without me having communicated any of that to you, you find a fucking door. So like I kind of like how that worked out.
If you ever played Starbound, this door is like in game. It's only used to teleport you to like the extra mini dungeons that can go through for loot, and it has its own purpose. But for here, I basically repurposed it to be this is like a door that appeared from the No Man's Sky universe or whatever, from the god at the end of the Starbound campaign that I can't remember the name of, the Cultivator. The idea is that it kind of appeared from the Cultivator or whatever, and it goes through. And there's actually a brief point where I considered having it after it cuts to black. It cuts to the No Man's Sky universe, and he's there in doing whatever, and then it ends. But I decided not to do that because I thought, actually, let's play the rest of the thing, and then I'll continue. All right. So first of all, I want to address first it's kind of hard to hear. I don't know if this goes the stream, but you can still hear the wind whistling in the background that's actually a diject sound just from that type of planet. I thought it kind of portrayed a sense of desolation, after everything. I thought it was very neat, so I left it in. Kind of actually had to loop that segment of audio at some point to extend it for the rest of the duration of the video, which is 8 minutes 16 seconds exactly, because in No Man's Sky the kind of arch number is 16, and then 8 is obviously divisor of 16. That's it. Anyway, so that's that. So exactly what I was saying before we resume. The reason I decided not to have you, the audience, go through the portal with Nova Kid is I thought it was much more poignant if the audience was left behind by the Nova Kid going through the portal. Because in a way, I think V maybe is kind of an audience surrogate, so to speak, where he's not he's like watching, like he's very much he's still entrenched in the in the Starbound universe, and he's watching this person kind of not necessarily fruitlessly, but move on without him, obsess, and basically almost obsessively try to pursue what there was before, like what they had before. So that's why, and I kind of wanted to hammer that home with now that No Kid is gone, he in a way also doesn't know what to do with himself. Like the exception, fault detected, unknown command, unable to continue. And V requires captain. I thought it was very much more poignant that way. If we didn't know what happened to the No Kid, we don't know if they made it. We don't know what they did after they got through. We don't know if they went off and found the bro operatives ever. Yeah.
And I've talked about this with you since, but this kind of fucked me up. like I was like, oh, this is really cool that he made this, it's really neat. It's a little bit more serious than one of our videos, but of course it is. It's purely scripted narrative, and it doesn't have Ian talking in the background and us having to deal with that. And so but whenever it fully concluded, I was like, I don't know if he intended for this to be so like gut-wrenching in terms of like meta-narrative theming, but it hit me especially hard because in a lot of our more recent story mode videos, I typically take out my frustration on the creative process in the theming and in the sort of melancholy that the main character experiences in pursuing these goals and being unable to really reach them. And whenever I really finished and processed this, I don't know how to phrase it other than to say it made me a little unexpectedly. What is there a word for when you're mad, but it's not actual anger, it's grief. It triggered a grief response because I didn't think anyone else was really getting that out of the storytelling of bro-op videos. And to see you, even if unintentionally, tell a story that was so in line with that really made me feel like I had gotten something across. And whenever you and I talked about this later, there's a lot of like parallels in this story that came about as the result of you just sort of listening to the character of V and finding out what that character was. Of your character is obsessively chasing his heroes that he knows nothing about, while my character is obsessively chasing these friends of his that he knows aren't heroes and he knows are bad people, but he can't stop. So he's like, my character is losing himself pursuing the only friends he thinks he's ever had, and your character is losing your only real friend in pursuit of these people he doesn't even know. And I was just demolished by that. I was like, oh, this is such a fitting little side story.
Yeah, there's a lot. So I think, first of all, this is definitely where V kind of hits his apex as a character. It's where I kind of, in a way, almost fully understood what V as a character is, who they are, and I wanted to take that kind of attachment he had and frame it as a computer would. Because a computer, obviously, or an AI, or at least as far as we understand it, wouldn't experience grief like a human would. They would see it through, command line. We'd see, like, oh, that's not a valid. Like, it doesn't fit within their framework.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of, so I think, I wanted to be like, they're getting left behind in a way because of that. So because in a way, both V and the Nova Kid are, like, I approached it more from an audience perspective, because obviously for a very long time, I've only ever been the audience. And I think that's interesting. I didn't even intend that, like the way it reflected your experience with as a creator. And there was like some stuff I wanted, and like, so the idea of like both characters being the audience is like at the very start, the Nova Kid says something that's very like almost ironic when you think about it. He says, the best damn heroes the galaxy has ever seen.
Yes, I knew from the moment you said that you were trying to make a point, and I knew that it was going to be some sort of ironic point about the dramatic irony of the character not knowing what we as the audience know.
Yeah. So I wanted to be like, so in a way, it was like kind of written to be like the audience doesn't understand how to move on.
Yeah.
Like they don't understand how. I think that's more of a general point, but especially for bro-op, where Starbound has been such it's foundation of the channel in a way, but it's also like I don't even know, it's a ball and chain, I guess you could call it.
I don't even know where to start this thought, so I'm just gonna word vomit it out. You told a story that was extremely metacritically important and relevant in terms of our experience with the channel as a whole, not just the channel, but Starbound specifically. And not only did you do so, but the very act of bringing your video into existence also proved your point, because what we were talking about before, whenever I was troubleshooting some stuff, is that this video has like 2,000 views, and the videos we've put out in the past couple of years typically don't break 200. And I had started to wonder if these jokes I made about people don't watch unless it's Starbound, I had started to wonder if I was just being an old fucking boomer and like not letting go of an old resentment, and if that wasn't even really the case anymore. But then we put this video out, and it sure as shit is, because like I start seeing commenters I haven't seen in forever who truly don't remember we exist unless it's Starbound.
Yeah, like I read through some of the comments. I'm not going to name anyone's. I don't encourage anyone to go into their replies and harass them. But I tell people,
I don't resent them. It's just an observation.
Yeah. I saw someone say like, oh, they haven't got the sense from the comments that they truly do think that Starbound is not over. I understand that's an Evangelion reference, but I think, at least as a title of a Starbound video, Like I after I saw it, I was like, oh god, I hope people don't think that this is the return of Starbound. Like, because at the end of the day, like it's not even made by Bro Op. It originally was just going to be my channel would hit like 10 views from each active member of the Bro Op Discord server, and that would be the end. But then I saw the comments after it got uploaded. That I was like, oh shit. I hope I didn't get anyone's hopes up.
Well, and that's the thing, though, is that I did that on purpose for very clickbaity purposes, but also the structuring of the title is important because the title is Starbound is over. Like, it's just that the not is in parentheses almost to represent there are things about our channel that in a way are the audience's headcanon and have not ever been a part of our plan. Like, for example, the notion that we are a Starbound channel. That's been a problem ever since we got that first 2,000 extra subscribers from posting those videos on the subreddit. We would put videos out that we'd be proud of, and people would be like, but where's Starbound, though? And it's just like, you're the one who has told yourself to expect that. Like, so in a way, the not in parentheses is the audience. And like, you are putting words in my mouth. Starbound is over. And just the fact that like the story of this little video you made is also so much about that, because we talk about the fact that you chose to have V left behind, and to me, V is the viewer, like V is the audience.
It makes sense that it's called V then, because V for viewer.
Yeah, because anytime the protagonist is trying to do something to move forward or to pursue something different in an attempt to move forward, V is just like, don't do that. Let's just keep doing what we're doing. Let's just stay here where it's comfortable, where we can do more together of this. And the Novakit moves on where V cannot follow, because like, as those viewers have proven, if it's not Starbound, it doesn't exist. Like, and that's not entirely the viewer's fault. I'm sure part of it is the design of YouTube. But for us to have like 4,500 subscribers and to not break 200 views on any video unless it's Starbound, and then if it is Starbound, it breaks 2,000. V is the viewer, like, because like they just want to stay here. They just want to do more of this. But the fact of the matter is that the Bro Operatives moved on without you, and it's just like I just remember watching this and just having my whole dick blown off at how relevant it was.
Yeah, I think even though I say it's like almost me getting some kind of artistic catharsis from the point in my life where Starbound and Bro Op were a thing that was a major role in like what I enjoyed. But at the end of the day, I think it's less even about Starbound as a game. I think it's almost entirely and wholly about Bro Op. It's like Starbound, like obviously as time has gone on and more has come out about the development of Starbound, and also time has passed for us to be able to see the flaws in Starbound just as a game. I think it's been that's something that's worthy of discussion in and of itself. But I don't think I ever truly cover that except in the broad strokes in this video. It's like it's the idea of it's been 20 years, etc. The things have changed. Like, I guess in that sense, it's about Starbound, but at the end of the day, I think it's mostly about Bro.
Well, and it meant a lot to me that so many of the voice lines are from the No Man's Sky series, and I don't think I ever really pinned down why that meant so much to me. And it's because, the Novakit is pursuing these people, like these people that he has idolized, but he's not just like staying stagnant and reflecting on their memory in Starbound. He's finding messages from them that are these messages no one else has heard because they're from the No Man's Sky universe, or they're from the No Man's Sky videos, and he's going to pursue them where they go. And so to me, it was very, very respectful. And also, I have the same sort of like feelings from time to time of like really reflecting on how big of a piece of my life this has been, and whenever we do bring it to an end, how I want to go about it, because I do feel like so much of the greater meta narrative of Bro Op has just fallen on deaf ears. It's like it's almost like a big portion of the stuff that I've worked the hardest on in my career as a director of Bro Op has been like Star Wars extended canon, and then just to find out, oh well, none of that's canon now that we've sold to Disney. Like, I feel like in my heart of hearts, everything that I've ever put on the channel is a part of a greater multiverse and a greater conjoined narrative. And for so many people who just don't see the things pop up in their feed, or don't think to check on our channel, or just don't use YouTube that way, the only canon of Bro Op is Starbound and the occasional other video. You know, like people who got really into Dungeons and Dipshits. And so, like, I think that if I ever have to grieve and let go of this channel as a project, I've got to somehow top this video, and I don't know how to do
it. There's something you mentioned earlier where it's like Bro Op isn't there anymore. And I think that there's a line that's said in the lab section where he says, maybe we're not even chasing a person, something more like a ghost.
Yeah.
It's the idea of, like, you know, these people are gone. This Starbound, the Bro Op you knew, the Bro Op you may have come to love, is in a way gone, and the idea that's left over is like it's a ghost. It's not.
Yeah.
It's, you know, it's intangible. It's not something. It's not. You can't do anything necessarily that you would want.
Yeah. But yeah, I in terms of that ghost, I think in the past couple of years, there have been so many times when I felt guilty, extremely guilty of the fact that we started a new project that I really wanted to be our next big thing that we focused on. I got fucking no views, and so as a consequence of that, I didn't even bother finishing the story. Like Dungeons and Dipshits is an example of that, because, you know, it did pretty well for a while, and then, well, actually, Dungeons and Dipshits is a bad example, because we got slowed down on that because Nick had to quit because he is having a baby. So, like, we didn't. What an asshole! Am I right?
I know, right? Yeah.
But then, like, I really struggled with putting that footage together, and so it went on hiatus. And then, you know, I was extremely proud of No Man's Sky, and Chase just hates the game. His role play was excellent, even though he doesn't agree with doing roleplay in every video that we do. When asked to do it, he did an excellent job, but he just fucking hates that game. And going back to the rule of threes with the channel, if we don't have at least 3 players bouncing off of each other comedically, it doesn't work. And so, like, me and Ian alone weren't going to be able to pull that off. And then, you know, just continuing on down the road with things like Elden Ring and stuff like that, I have had to forgive myself for the fact that I keep trying new things and abandoning them. Because the fact of the matter is, either I do that or I stop. Like, I've just got to keep trying new things. And so that's, in that way, I think that there is sort of 2 Bro Ops, probably several more, because there's the one that you as the audience imagine, and then there's the one that I'm running that's evolving every day. That, like, we're trying something new every couple of months just to see what sticks. And, you know, right now it's D&D. I love it. I love that game. But, you know, nobody's really watching the videos, and D&D is one of those things where real life drama can throw a wrench in things, you know? So, like, I also have that worry in the back of my head of, is this going to be yet another unfinished story because somebody decided to get in a fight with something, you know? So who fucking knows? Yeah. But in any case, I am just so goddamn thankful that you made this video, because it was never my intention to steal the clout from it, and that's why I asked if I could re-upload it on my channel, and you graciously accepted, because to me, re-uploading it on the channel, the only purpose that serves is to canonize it. Like, this is a part of the timeline. This happened, and I wanted to make sure that we established that. So thank you so much for making it.
It's very funny, because I think I made a comic a while ago. Like, a different artistic pursuit of mine that became canon was that No Man's Sky comic I made a while ago that I think I don't think it had as much, I don't think it was as dense as this video ended up being. I think it's like a neat little parallel where, like, it's like that was made something as an homage kind of to the No Man's Sky series, and this was made on the other end of that as an homage to STARBOUND series. I think it's neat that kind of the parallel between various things I've done that are for the channel and become a part of it in a way. This one more so than the other.
Yeah, and I'm just thankful that you clearly respect and love the channel in spite of how much you hate me. So that's just always good to see.
There is a pipe bomb in your mailbox, yes. I guess since I think this is kind of the natural conclusion of the club commentary. I do want to say one thing to any viewers out there: if you love the Bro Up Starbound series, or even if you just love Starbound, and you want to get some sort of like catharsis from that, if you want to pay homage to that, make something like I did. Like, make something, even if it's silly, even if you feel like it's not the greatest. Like, do something like this, to show, like, show how important this was to you, even if you don't even upload, even if it's just for you, even if you only ever show it to friends, something to show. Like I think that catharsis is very important to some people, to you as a person. It's important to get that kind of satisfaction and conclusion on those parts of your life. Otherwise, they're just going to sit in you forever. You're going to go insane.
Well, I agree. And a big piece of that is that people don't want to admit to themselves that those things are important. I think we've been gaslit by our families and our society into believing that if something is like a cartoon or a TV show or something that only takes up a really small portion of your life, that it can't have an enormous impact on it. And that's just not true. Like, there are people that have been my friends for like a decade that I've never met that started communicating with me because of these videos. And I felt so fucking guilty because, we've obviously like trickled off in terms of how much content we put out. And sometimes I'll get everybody hyped for some major product only to have a major bout of depression and have to like stop it or something like that. And for some fucking reason, those people are still here. and so like that's just been such a blessing to see that like this thing has connected so many people. And so I want anybody, like he said, if you feel like this series has had an impact on your life, that's valid. Your feelings about that are valid and they're real, and they're a part of the tapestry of your life. Like Bro Op is, as far as the sequence of events go, Bro Op Starbound allowed me to quit teaching and work in the video game industry because a worker at Chrono was looking for Starbound partners to sell Starbound, and our video was one of the highest viewed videos on YouTube regarding Starbound, and that's thanks to you guys. And so she went, hey, you come sell Starbound, and we didn't sell a single fucking copy because that's a whole nother story. But I just truly appreciate you all.
Yeah, just on that, like, Bro Op's been very important to my life. I think my life has definitely been changed. Like, I think if I hadn't joined Bro Op around I didn't for a while. I didn't join Bro Op. I won't say I didn't join Bro Op. I joined the Bro Op community. I'll make that clear so there's no confusion. I joined the Bro Op community.
He is not getting paid.
Yeah, SC hasn't paid me a dime. Please let me out of his basement. Yeah, so I think I started really becoming part of the Bro Op community as around the Starbound era, and I think that around the Stardew era.
Yeah.
And I think that's changed my life. I met a lot of very cool people. As I mentioned earlier, like the members of the Bro Op community, indirectly, of course, in a way, inspired me to make this. I think, my life is probably an entirely different trajectory that I had if I hadn't joined Bro Op, or if I hadn't watched Starbound. I think that's very, those are kind of very important to me as part of like a facet of my.
Well, in regards to that taking actions to resolve your catharsis, if you don't wind up making something or creating something to share with yourself or other people, comment, because everybody should be commenting. Like, I know we have a Discord and people will go to channel feedback and be like, bro, the video was good. Messages in Discord don't improve our chances of getting picked up on the algorithm. So I appreciate you, but follow the fucking direction.
Wow. Psycho YouTuber lashes out at fans.
If I don't get at least 13 comments on this video, Shaq die.
Oh,